All right, so I want to talk about save state. Now, a lot of the things that we end up seeing inside of our code deals with, inside of Unity for Save, deals with player preferences, that you can store player preferences out. And that's very easy to just go inside of your code and say PlayerPrefs or EditorPrefs. If you're dealing with just tooling for the IDE, and you can get int or set int, and you can save the content, you can load it back up, whatever. That's great. It's an easy way to do that. It works awesome for smaller content like casual games. So things like Candy Crush. Candy Crush, you don't care about your state within the level, where every single piece of candy was inside of those. That's not what you're looking at. You're just looking at what level are they at? How many power-ups do they have of particular types? How much time do they have left before whatever? What level did they leave off on? Those are things that you care about there. And that means that just a handful of variables can be saved to effectively store that user's information. PlayerPrefs is great. Serialization is awesome, especially in the short term with JsonUtility. So when things are loading from the scene, my cubes in here all have unique IDs. So if I drag this over here to test, this cube 1 that's in here, and then I hit save now, I can see in here the test, because remember, test right here, that's the name of this field, test is referenced to cube 1. That is 23218. If I were to drag, let's just save that. Oh, I already did. Whatever. So if I were to drag in cube 2, we can see, and save, of course. Now that's a little farther out, and I actually have to go farther. It still has that same code, 23218, and that's going to become interesting in just a second. But we see over here 23198. So it has a different ID. Now, what's interesting about this is the fact that when I'm doing the JsonUtility.toJSON here, I'm doing this, which includes this .context. So it's actually storing whatever the context, its previous JSON save context, into the new JSON, which means I literally have an undo state hidden in here. Okay, so if I were to hit load, you can see I'm on cube 2, and if I hit load, it changed this. I must have hit save twice. Let's do it one more time. I'm still on cube 2 here. Load. There we go. I'm back to cube 1 and no context. But I can drag these in. I can hit save now. I can get rid of it, backspace, save now, go to cube 3, save now. Let's add main camera. Main camera, save now, and then just blank game object there, sure. So I've got a lot of these contexts, and you can really see the slashes indicating like how many levels out that's starting to react. Anyway, so over here I'm going to hit load, and we'll just start going back through these different points. And it stores them and brings them back. Okay, so here's an area where this will break down. You can't store the actual transform. So I can't take the transform and put it here and save that transform. It's going to end up giving me an error if I try. I can't save game objects. I can't save the components that are associated with it. That state has special things linked up to it. There's a whole special system of how Unity connects to C#. There's a C++ side holding on to information, and there's a C# side holding on to information. They're tied together. Okay, so anyway, I've got those ones. Let me just hit save now. And I get an error because JsonUtility.toJSON does not support engine types. That's the error I get if I actually try to save it, so I can't store it. So this works great if I'm working against things that are already stored to the scene. Now, I've got this referencing cube 1 in here. If I hit save, but then I delete cube 1, and then I go over to cube, and I'm going to hit Control D, I've just created a new cube 1. Now, of course, deleting it wiped it out from here. Oh, I've got code. It can't save anything. That's an oops. Let's put this and this. All right, save that. And then let's go, oh yeah, from here, I'm going to drag in clear. That there. All right, drag cube in. Okay, so it's got cube. I'm going to save this state. Now it's referencing 6012 negative. And so now I'm going to go to cube and delete it. Now anything that referenced it just lost its reference. So Unity already took care of that. That's great. Now if I create a new cube, now if I take a look at this one, there's a trick here. You can just go to debug, and now I can see the instance ID on this new one I just created is -7888. So if I try to load now, this context of trying to connect to 6012 is not going to work. So let me show you that. So if I hit load now, nothing, none, because this other one is different. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hit save, and it's got this reference to 6012. This is an artifact sitting inside of Unity where it still has a reference to the old information. So if somehow it comes back, its state comes back, it can still restore that. But that's not really here. So let's go back to this and go to, let's put 7888 inside. So instead of 6012, I'm going to put 7888 and let's go load. And now I've got reference to that cube that I just generated because I have the ID. So you can actually edit the JSON that has that information inside of it and alter what object ID it's going to. So that's another way that you can deal with your larger save concepts. So if you have a prefab of a building, then you can save the fact that it's got this prefab. So you reload the prefab, and then you get the state JSON and you change the JSON for the instance IDs. When you say, and you change it to the new ID, you have to get the instance ID from the new prefab that you created. You understand what the old one is, so you can look that up and change it. Technically, you don't even need to know it, depending on how you have your save file structured. But you do need to map that content out to save it. Anyway, that's the big things that I wanted to discuss here on how to save and deal with some of this information. And then, of course, also just showing this interesting undo trick. Again, the undo trick has no memory limitation, so it can build up pretty fast, but it does work as an effective undo, especially in editor state. All right, thanks.